My name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
This is Nigeria Info.
I'm the Oracle, the fellow OTF, Madam Speaker, and I'll say yes to them all. And your deacon is
My name
also.
is Itodo. I get called the deacon, evangelist, chief. Everything else works for me as long as it's you calling it and it makes you happy. But welcome. Today we're going to go through some of the big stories making the rounds today on the Roundtable. We'll be doing that until 4:30, and of course moving to other conversations as well. At 6 o'clock, we'll get your eyewitness reports, know what's happening around the city, and of course we're here until 7, when we'll be handing over to the football frenzy. As always, we'll have a great time talking, hearing from you, getting your views, and of course having you join the conversation on Facebook and YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info Abuja, just so that you can be a part of the action. All right. It's always a good time to join in and be part of the Nigeria Info family.
Oh, yes, it is. And we'll start off looking at some of the big stories driving conversation, as usual, keeping with the tradition of the show, Hard Facts, that is, where we look at what you're talking about. Besides the fact that a lot of people are talking, and as a matter of fact, on Twitter, Nobel laureate is trending, Wole Soyinka is trending. Apparently, people are entitled to opinion and sharing their perspective of how they see things. But it's obvious that some people just don't like you to be overtly critical, and they come at you. Well, I thought Wole Soyinka had a right to share his opinion, even though it was a media, it was a TV interview, and he made reference to the interview with Dati Ahmed, the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, and felt it was a bit fascist, what he said about the judiciary and all of that. But right now, the dragging is like a very broken, I pass my neighbor Jen, the way they're dragging him. And I'm a little curious, you don't want to hear someone else's opinion, you don't want to hear contrary opinion. And this is going to obedience, because apparently they are the ones who are very uncomfortable with certain perspective. It might not be altogether. The fact that he's Wole Soyinka doesn't mean he's 100% correct, but he's entitled to an opinion, to saying, well, what this gentleman said about this is interpreted by Wole Soyinka as this. You could argue with your superior argument, bring your perspective, but I worry so much that there's some bit of insult attached to it, which I'm not so comfortable with.
I mean, we can do better in terms of going with what other people are saying and their opinions. Everyone has got a right to their opinion. But their concern as well boils down to the fact that nothing was necessarily said during the election, the ethnic thoughts and comments that were made following the election in Lagos as well, and all of that. So, I mean, they thought that he was going to use the opportunity to also address all of these other concerns.
Which is valid.
Yeah.
However, I didn't follow the entire train of the interview to know what questions were asked. Sometimes it could just be, all right, he didn't tweet. He's an 80-plus-year-old man, perhaps not always on Twitter, sharing his opinion on the go on every single thing happening. And you brought him for an interview and certain questions were asked. And he responded to those questions. Perhaps if they asked him, what's your opinion about what's happened in Lagos and all of the ethnic profiling that happened during the election, he might have an opinion on that. You understand?
Yeah. I watched the interview and...
Was that question brought up?
No, it wasn't necessarily brought up. So he answered based on what he was asked. And I think a lot of people were not happy with the way he responded to the comments of the VP of the Labour Party. So I think that's why they're coming at him right now. And he's got some supporters as well.
Tons of them. Kingsley Moghalu, for example. And that's why he's also trending. Kingsley Moghalu says, this man, he has survived quite a lot. He has seen things, done that. He's going to survive this one also. And yes, threw him under the bus.
They did. Their reason was, because he supported you while you were running or, making your foray into politics at the time. That's why you are supporting him right now. So everybody has got the opportunity to support whomever it is they want to support. I think we can do right by disagreeing, but being respectful.
Yeah, be agreeable. Take it or leave it. an elderly person. But yes, I know that we love to do the respect thing in Africa, and sometimes respect all the time is reciprocal. It doesn't matter if the person is 1,000 years old as Methuselah, and you're two, you deserve as much respect as the older person. However, we're better brought up people here, so you can disagree with someone and say, you know what, I do not agree with your opinion, and I think you've been quiet for so long. You should have commented when this happened and or whatnot. But, you know, when I see some of them insulting, some people bringing out into like, come on, guys, we're raised better than this. I
think there are better ways of bringing up these things that we're concerned about, like you just mentioned right now. So we need to learn that just because people do not agree with our thoughts doesn't mean we have to resort to insulting them or making them feel some type of way, right? You can still say, I don't agree with you. You could have done it this way, or I think this is a better option. I think everyone would be happy eventually. So let's learn, but for now, there's a lot of back and forth on social media regarding his statement.
Oh, yes, there's a lot. Well, he had very strong, opinion about that. And I can see how some people have their reservations to it, but not enough for you to, for you to degenerate into the kind of comment I've seen some young people put out. I think it's totally unacceptable, honestly. However, emotions are high at the moment, and it feels like this election is different from, I do not want to use the slang of our president-elect. It just feels like the election is gone, not totally, because, people have gone to court like they've been instructed to.
Yeah.
But it feels like that tension is still there. You still have a bit of that pre-election tension that is still there, just hanging and waiting for like one or two persons to sleep, again. which I feel like that's something that Dr. Majid emphasized on when he came yesterday to say we all need to find a way to douse the tension. The president-elect has a lot of work to do in this regard. You've heard a lot of people, even the former Emir of Kano says it feels like we're more divided, and even during the Civil War, people are making comments about as to the ethnic dimensions that have coming to it, and the religious dimensions that have come into it. And that's why you can find out that an audio tape in which the Labour Party says is fake is still generating a lot of conversation. In some quarters, they're saying, we told you, this Christian perspective, and, the Muslim ticket also was obviously a religious dimension to it. So there's just a whole lot, bringing us straight back to the two major things that divide us a lot, religion and ethnicity in the country. And I thought we'd been able to bridge that gap and deal with this, but politicians know how to just rip off the bandage and get the wound bleeding all over again.
They tend to use that to their advantage. But, I think we should be wiser now to know that these divisions will not take us anywhere. We should be smart enough to know that, it's something we need to unlearn. We are one. We should work together, because we all want the same thing, which is the growth of Nigeria. So being against each other because you come from a different part of the country will take us nowhere. And it's what we've had to, battle with every other week since the election on social media, in private conversations, in public. You're treated differently because they can guess where you're from, or you look a certain way. And you might not even be from that location of the country, but because you look that way, then you are treated differently. There's so much work that needs to be done in ensuring that we learn to coexist and work towards the common goal. And I'm hoping that with the new administration and the healing, which is what you're running with right now, that should be the focus, and we should just put all of this behind us. Let those who are aggrieved work through the court system and get the justice that they are working towards, and just let's let things flow and take its natural course.
Indeed. Talking about flu, let's get on to the stories that we have. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo says the outcome of the general election has made Nigeria more divided than ever before. Speaking on Thursday in Abuja at the presentation of a book authored by Tunji Olaupa, the former president said he's too old to keep quiet on national issues. Obasanjo described the election outcome as sickening and show of shame, and urged the incoming administration to put measures in place that will foster national reconciliation. He said efforts are required to rescue the country from its launch into dystopia, adding that it would only be possible with a common vision. Now, given what we saw during the election, Nigeria is even more divided and more corroded than we thought. This places a deep onus on any administration following the current one to urgently facilitate the process of national moral disarmament and national reconciliation for the aggrieved and will lead us across Nigeria and to assuage the youth. He emphasized on young people because he pictured that young people are the most vexed with the outcome of the election. And he says this must be done in sync with the imperative of national value orientation that Nigeria requires to build a collective sense of enduring local values and national belonging. Let me conclude by stating clearly that I'm now too old to keep quiet and watch Nigeria's seemingly clueless launch into dystopia. All effort are now required from all committed patriots to rescue the nation from the precipice. And when I look at the audience, I have a feeling that among the people who can do it and who must do it are some of you here. It has become my own personal obligation, continuing in my restless service as an letterman, dedicated in my twilight years to say the truth as I see it, so as to push Nigeria in the direction of our collective aspiration. What is our collective aspiration? A better society where all Nigerians can become what the Almighty God destined them to be. At times like this, some of us has to adopt the attitude of being known to be blind and not being afraid of the dark. But we must continue to walk for the light of all. Waxing lyrical, sir. I like that line. I'm going to tweet it.
Well, I think it's...
Must all be known to be blind, not being afraid of the dark, but must continue to walk for the light of all. Wow.
That's
Give him
something
the
we
sheke.
should recite
Yeah.
every day henceforth. But I think it's important, how he's able to share his thoughts. And one thing he wants for Nigeria is its betterment, for us to move forward. And he's never shy to, pick up his pen and, write down a letter, share his thoughts and be honest about it. Now, some thoughts have not been taken in the easiest way or in the best way. But then again, everyone has an opportunity to share their thoughts. And depending on how you take it, you can agree, you can disagree. It's his thoughts and it's his to share. So let's pick lessons from different things that he has mentioned in this letter. And I'm hoping the incoming administration is able to, focus on uniting everybody across, various divides into one. And let's just focus on that, moving forward. And also call those who we look up to, who have been somewhat low-key pushing this ethnic divide with their thoughts, their inaction or their actions, and just, steering people towards something that we've been trying to avoid for the longest. Now, it might not be intentional. It might just be something that they think should be put out there because of how they felt at that point or feel at that point in time. But it's important that everyone is deliberate in everything that they are saying. Rethink it. And how would you feel if the same thing was said to you? How would you take it? That's the same way the other tribe would take it. So ensure that you're not the one who is, pushing for an ethnic divide based on your thoughts and actions. It's really important that we are all intentional in, working together. Yeah.
And he did share his opinion on how the election went. I mean, called it a show of shame. A lot of people would agree with him. There are lots more people who disagree with him. And just imagine if we were all degenerated into just insulting everyone for their positions on this. Going back to the first story to saying we need to just calm down a little with...
Those who have called him out and said, he's not different from what is happening right now when he was Nigeria's president between 1999.
Obasanjo has been one who's been dragged several
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure he's used to it already.
He writes a letter. I remember the height of President Jonathan, even President Buhari, when it was Jonathan's time, those who were cheering him were in the opposition, and, those who were the ruling party at that time, PDP, felt like, this man, you're one of the problem of this country. They tore him to shreds and all of that. And when you had Buhari coming, which he felt was a favored and better person, and perhaps it wasn't living up to his expectation when it was so obvious that Nigerians were disgruntled with the leadership style of President Buhari, he equally wrote his letters. And then the table turned. The people who were hailers before started criticizing him for calling out the president, and those who had strong words against him started supporting him because, the table has turned naturally. Nigerians, it just feels like we're just simple, basic people. It depends on what the person is saying and what side of the fence they're on, which is, it shows also death of ideology across our political line enough to say, if you're not saying things nice about us, then you're a bad person.
He's an elder statesman. He says he's too old to keep quiet. He can share his thoughts if he wants to.
I don't think he's afraid of anyone.
He shouldn't be afraid of anyone. I doubt that. But let's go on this quick break. When we come back, we'll get into more stories and hear your thoughts. Stay tuned.
Hello, My name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
Nothing breaks the news like the news. Trust me, I can prove it. I do it every morning on Morning Crossfire from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Nigeria Info 95.1, and I'm Femi D. Amede. Join the biggest conversation around the national politics every day in a way that is trustworthy, full of passion, and yes, covers the biggest politics and the stories that matter to you. See, you have all the reasons to find out what's going on in Nigeria and be engaged differently. Let's talk. That's the way to go, even this morning.
This is Nigeria Info.
Your story right now. He wrote a letter regarding the Ekweremadus in the UK, and he's begging the UK court for leniency. The Ekweremadus were on March 28 convicted by the UK court after the trial on the allegation that they lured a young man from Nigeria to the UK for the purpose of harvesting his kidney for their daughter Sonia, who needed a kidney transplant. Now, following the guilty verdicts by the UK court, the Ekweremadus are said to be at risk of being sentenced to 10 years imprisonment by the provisions of the Modern Slavery Act of 2015 of the United Kingdom. Now, the court deferred their sentencing to a later date. Obasanjo, in a letter dated April 3rd and addressed to the chief clerk of the court, pleaded to the United Kingdom to temper justice with mercy. We'll read excerpts of this letter real quick. I do realize the implications of the action. I dare say it is unpleasant and condemnable and can't be tolerated in any sane or civilized society. However, it is my fervent desire that for the very warm relations between the United Kingdom and the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for his position as one of the distinguished senators in the Nigerian parliament, and also for the sake of their daughter in question, whose current health condition is in danger and requires an urgent medical attention, you will use your good offices to intervene and appeal to the court and the government of the United Kingdom to be magnanimous enough to temper justice with mercy and let punishment that may have to come take their good character and parental instinct and care into consideration. End of quote. Now, in his letter, he also went on to describe Ekweremadu as a God-fearing politician whom he said he had known for over 2 decades, and went on to state about how they met, their relationship, being in the same party, and literally working together while he was president between 1999 and 2007. So he mentioned a lot of things about the Ekweremadus, hoping that this would, help them in the case they're currently going through right now. And this has, taught Nigerians and a lot of politicians that things do not necessarily always work the same way we think they would in the country. And people have also mentioned that why is the president Muhammadu Buhari not lending his voice to the Ekweremadu case, but it could come off as him supporting a crime, the crime of which they are, and he's still in power right now. So he might be limited by what he can do in terms of pushing for
we've seen where
leniency.
government waded in. I remember when a Nigerian was to be sentenced to death for drug peddling.
Yeah.
And you got the government waiting enough for the case to be properly interrogated, because apparently there was very little investigation into that, only to find out that she was set up in the first instance. But she would have gone to the gallows if we didn't get some sort of government intervention, as it were. This is an interesting case because also, as much as that one has to do with the laws of a country, you can come in and... It's a tight corner.
Dicey, yeah,
I can understand that. Seeing that there is a legislature, it's a different thing if we found out, okay, this person was set up, please revisit this case and see that this person is innocent, to a case where they're tabling it before you. From your country perspective, it might not seem much of a big deal. Sure, they give her money. But in their own laws, it is modern day slavery. It is something very heinous crime
it was paid for
at that point
if
in
it were
time.
a free will donation of his kidney to help save her, that would have been played out differently.
Government there can be a level of appeal for leniency to a certain degree, but if it goes this way, it means that you have to speak for almost every Nigerian, in spite of the crime they commit there, to say be lenient with them. They are citizens at the end of the day. So I can understand how difficult of a position it must be. Someone like Obasanjo, he's not like the president at the moment, but he's quite respected and he's known when it comes to conflict situation and peace and reconciliation and all of that. He's well respected. I mean, if we talk about the conflict in Ethiopia, Obasanjo is one of those key people instrumental to getting people to shield their sword and, signing an agreement to cease fire to a certain degree. And Obasanjo's influence has been felt in a lot of African countries when it comes to reconciliation also.
Yes.
I'm sure to be respected, but we're talking about their courts there. I doubt even the Queen will write and say, "See, let's this case." You can the King. Oh my goodness, God rest her soul, Queen Elizabeth. Can only appeal to the court, and there are cases that you could present that would make, the court perhaps the gravity of the offense and the judgment. No, the offense cannot be, but you could.
The judgment will be
the judgment would be lesser, a bit more acceptable, perhaps. Even a day in prison sounds like a lot. This one that the case has been going on sounds too much even for Ekweremadu. I'm not in his shoes, but I can already feel it. So, but yeah, anything to help his case is what Obasanjo is doing at the moment in time. Yeah. Because it's a big and a sensitive one.
It's a really dicey situation they're in right now. But
we've seen government wading to the cases of Nigerians in the diaspora who've been in a pickle before and tried to get them some sort of leniency at the end of the day, and even got someone's life saved from a death penalty because we waited in.
When they got arrested, Nigerian government worked towards getting them lawyers to.
Was it the government or some of his colleagues from?
Well, his colleagues in the make of the government, literally.
They didn't go on behalf of the government. They went as colleagues, friends from the National Assembly.
Well, yes, there's that. But maybe with Obasanjo speaking up, that could ginger them, to doing something extra to ensure that something is done about
before they call the final judgment, this is where anybody who wants to appeal on his behalf and leniency and all of that can come in at this point in time to ensuring that it gets tempered justice with mercy. Not to go away free, however, but then something a bit more,
lenient?
Yeah. Lenient.
Well,
okay, these are two stories. We'll get your perspective on the stories in a bit. Feel free to join us via YouTube, via Facebook, and WhatsApp. Our WhatsApp number is 0809-9930-137. Let's look at some of the comments and we'll get on the third story and throw open the phone lines. Are you on YouTube?
Yes, I'm on YouTube right now. Oludade Abiodun says, insulting our elders is not nice at all. Okay, that question, that follow-up shook me for a bit. Asking from a wrestler. Come on. Mahmoud Mohammed says, Kim and Itodo, good afternoon. Just to let you know that the Senate President sent a team of senators to interface with the British government, but yielded no results. Therefore, OBJ later lent his voice. Okay. All right. Let's see what's happening on WhatsApp right now. You can share your thoughts as well. Good afternoon, OTF and Itodo. When the Oracle's English meets the Nobel Laureate's English, wahala, wahala, wahala. My diva. Right. Okay. Obasanjo is a specific man that doesn't fear anyone. He will always say the truth. May God bless him for being outspoken. They shouldn't be calling. We haven't spoken anything about this, but thank you, Chinelo, for your thoughts. Speaking about Peter Obi and the presidential race. We didn't talk about this in any of our stories. Peter Pedro says, concerning Wole Soyinka, it is this idea of respecting elders every time, even when they misbehave, that has messed up our society today. It's so shameful for being quiet all along that a terrible thing has been going on, orchestrated by those in charge, only for him to come out and start attacking a set of people that have been very civil and law-abiding before, during, and after the elections, and label them fascist. As it is today, what an elderly person sees when sitting or even standing can not always be right. And grey hair doesn't necessarily mean one is wise. Okay. Finally, this country can... All right, let's leave it there. Peter Pedro, thank you for your thoughts. Our one-sided judgment is sad and bad. All that happened in Lagos, all that happened in Kaduna, the DSS, I'm not sure I understand this. You can kindly resend your message or you can take it again. The Patriot. Kim and Itodo, on the issue of Professor Wole Soyinka, and I want you guys to know that most of this attack or propaganda are always coming from the angle of party agents. These agents are in thousands, and they're doing everything possible to ensure that they rubbish some mass movements, as well as create hatred and division between united masses. I just pray that all their tactics and propaganda that will one day generate to something that will not bring about crisis in the society. Let me rest my case for now while I enjoy today's program with you guys. Have a nice deliberation. Okay, Adesaji, thank you very much for your thoughts right there. Kim, regarding Soyinka's backlash, we need to know that people are really, really angry and they are looking for where they can vent. People feel that Baba Soyinka is seen as a vanguard of truth over the life of Nigeria's governance, either military or civilian. Expectations from the next generation is a balance of opinion. Whether he is asked directly by an interviewer or not, he needs to borrow a leaf from OBJ. Yaba. Sharing his thoughts right there. And that's pretty much it for now. Okay.
All right then.
Should I go with this?
Yeah.
Okay. Paya says, good day, my sister. Whatever our educated professors get from the youth of today, they will get it from them. What electoral process or conduct are they leaving for us? Take a deep look into the past. It has all been one electoral fraud to the other. Please, how many of our learned professors are speaking on the ills of the country? Please, educate me. What legacy are our present-day leaders leaving behind? Are they teaching the young ones to use fraud as a tool to win elections? God bless the former president, Obasanjo, for his appeal to the UK court for leniency to Chief Ekweremadu. They said you can't throw away the baby with the bath water. Our politicians should know that there is no place like home. But the good news for Ekweremadu is that after serving his jail term, when he comes back to Nigeria, he shall be granted pardon.
It's no longer pardon if he served his term.
Well, regarding Wole Soyinka, he should allow Nigerians express their disappointment on the conduct of the last elections. Professor was very vocal criticizing GJ and his wife, but kept mute during the current government in spite of the predicaments faced by Nigerians. Godwin from Area 11. Well, he spoke about the cash crunch and how this could be could be ruining some of the legacy that the president will be leaving when he's out of office. So he spoke about...
Let's focus more on the CBN governor. Said it was a crime against humanity.
Yeah. Okay. Emeka from NLPC Tower says, what does he mean that is Soyinka calling obedience fascist? Does it mean does that mean or come off demanding a better Nigeria? I'm first to drag him on Twitter because he spoke badly. Oh, you're one of those. Okay. All right. Greetings to you. For me, nothing more, just to greet you guys. Okay, greetings to you as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. God's
Great.
Power F. Young, also with us on YouTube. And Matthew Julius, Kim and Itodo, good afternoon. I believe OBJ's letter might have some form of impact. Help reduce his jail term, but he's not getting off this one. We need to all learn this. All right. Then I don't think we're on Facebook. I'm searching. I can't find it there.
Yes. No, I'm going to do this real quick and see if it's... Okay, no, we're not on Facebook.
No,
just
we're
on
not on
YouTube
Facebook.
for now.
All right, then. Okay, let's get to the next story.
Okay, this has to do with the recent funds that we have gotten as palliatives for when the fuel subsidy gets taken away. Now, this has, gotten different reactions on social media. People wondering how would we be spending this much in terms of cash transfer when we can use it to improve on the various systems that we currently have and ensure that people are able to have working systems that would help them handle the pressure that would come from the removal of the fuel subsidy. I'm trying to get that story real quick so we can
let me help
get
you
into
here.
it. Thank you.
The federal government has secured $800 million World Bank facility for fuel subsidy removal palliative. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, made the disclosure while fielding questions from reporters after the federal executive meeting presided over by President Buhari in Abuja. She explained that the money, the $800 million, dollars, was the first tranche of the palliative to be disbursed through cash transfer to 50 million Nigerians who belong to the most vulnerable category of society. Her words, the secondary question on exit of fuel subsidy. This is a commitment in the petroleum industry bill. There's a provision that says that 18 months after the effectiveness of the PIA, all petroleum product must be deregulated. That 18 months takes us to June 2023. Also, when we're working on the 2023 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Appropriation Act, we made that provision to enable exit for a subsidy by June. We're on course. We're having different stakeholder engagement. We've secured some funding from the World Bank. That's the first tranche of the palliative that will enable us to give cash transfer to the most vulnerable in our society that have now been registered in a national social register. Today, that register has a list of 10 million households. 10 million households are equivalent to about 50 million Nigerians. So we have also raised more resources to enable us to do more than just the cash transfer and also in our engagement with the various stakeholders. And went on to say there are several things that we're still planning and working on. Some we can start executing quickly. Some are medium-term implementation. And providing more details, she added the fund was for the execution of the planned exit, adding that the $800 million is for scale-up of the National Social Investment Program at the World Bank, and it's secure and ready for disbursement. So it's a conditional cash transfer to say the social intervention program that they had that Abacha Loot has gone into, first tranche of Abacha Loot and the second one, and or whatnot, this is still a part of it. So people, remember, during the height of the COVID, when there was so much hula baloo around the school feeding program, and if poor people and the vulnerables were getting anything, the president did instruct in one of his broadcasts saying that they need to expand the bracket and the number of households. And so it has gone on to 10 million households, which translates to, according to the Minister of Finance, 50 million Nigerians, because in a household, you get to find, if you go to a household with more than one wife, you probably would get about 7 children or 14 or more. And so if you look at it that way, but don't ask me why a house that is profiled as poor and vulnerable should have so many children. But you know that in Nigeria, you get to see people who can barely make ends meet or know where their next meal is going to come from, have more children at their invisible dining table than they can handle. It just feels like, well, if I don't have money, I might as well have children. Yeah. And there's no land to farm, so I don't know what the children are for. You're not giving them education, you're not giving them good life. they're not helping productively, but to hawk and to beg on the street or to go
Putting more
into
pressure
maids
on
and-
you, actually.
Yeah. I mean, that's a conversation we should not be shy about having in the country. People should have sizable number of family that they can cater for. This is a modern time and age, for crying out loud. It's so unfair to have children you can't provide some basic things for, and then you have so many of them.
And then you have to put that burden on somebody else who is trying to manage their own life because you feel they have enough to take care of of themselves rather, and you as well. But the palliative, people have concerns about this. I mean, we saw what happened during the COVID lockdown, and the palliative that was meant to be shared to Nigerians who were going through a difficult time. It was hoarded. People found the warehouses, and they did the nasty with those warehouses, which is shameful as well. But that was, out of anger, saying, "Oh, we're suffering, having a difficult time, and these things are being hoarded." Now we see this 800. How sustainable is it? Once it runs out, once the cash runs out from those who get it eventually, how do they fall back? What do they do? Because can they start a business with the funds they'll be getting?
Well, if you've been following the conditional cash transfer and the social intervention program, I recall at the start of it in 2016, when we had people from that office for conditional cash transfer, said the plan was for, at least for every household, when you're captured, is for 3 years. And after that 3 years of supporting the family and giving them some sort of entrepreneurial skill, it's expected that after 3 years, you are removed from the register to be able to stand on your own to a certain degree, and then other people are captured. Now, how effective? As that when I interviewed them, it was already 5 years into the program, and sadly, they couldn't assure that anybody had left that bracket. So what it does with all of this is not to end poverty or alleviate it, is to just keep your head above water. Don't drown at this point in time. You have something to just keep you going and hope that you can, perhaps if it's akara or something, you start a small business and stuff like that. But we need to revisit this conversation properly and properly interrogate how and this family bracket, because do you still have the same people from when you started benefiting from it, or have you had some families and households removed after the 3 years and more people captured? Remember, the president talked about removing 100 million people out of poverty, and he gave a 10-year plan on how they were going to achieve that. So it'd be nice to already see you're 8 years into your administration, how many Nigerians have been removed from poverty altogether, Mr. President, given this intervention program that's been going on, that people have questioned how the monies have gone in, from the repatriated Abacha loot to, the World Bank targeted funding. The reason why they even released the third tranche of Abacha loot was because the government justified it with the social intervention program. And, usually these countries are big on things of alleviating poverty and the likes of it. But we need to also interrogate this beyond expanding family and just throwing a certain amount of figures and say first tranche from the World Bank. I know that, yes, you say these donors and the givers are also very thorough. There are checks to ensuring that the money is not diverted. But this is Nigeria, where we have had to critique certain things about how the money even gets trickled down. Because I remember the last time I had a conversation with them as to looking at the register, looking at how it gets to the family, they tell you, oh, go to these states. More states have been added since then. And you see the community who identify the poor and the vulnerable. They'll come out, they queue out, they sign for it and all of that. But then in the same country, we had people who were captured in that register who were vulnerable by any stretch of imagination. So it just felt like the 5K is coming. I don't know why people do that.
Because there's no way to verify the names and account numbers of those who would get the transfers.
How do you even sleep at night that your name is on the list for poor and vulnerable, and you're not vulnerable, just to be seen the data? Why?
It's unfair to actually need them. But it just goes to show how porous these systems are. Those who don't need the money put their names there or the names of their family members, and they could duplicate their names over and over again, that when the money comes in, it's in bulk and they tend to benefit from it without necessarily needing it. So
some get 10,000, depends on also the number of children in the household. If you have a nursing mother, a pregnant woman, it goes up onto 10,000 and it goes that way.
It's worrisome, and I feel the funds, a lot of people have also shared the same thought. The funds should be put into systems that work, a structure, all of these things that mitigates whatever pressures we'll be facing once the fuel subsidy gets taken away, as opposed to giving people cash. It would go away. Whatever skills you're teaching them, is that what they really want for themselves? Is that something that would be able to fetch them money long term, or is it just a one-off thing and they go back to where they've been struggling from, or even worse than it was before you came with that option for them? So I think we need to reevaluate what
A lot of
Palliatives.
people to be asked. People who the bracket, if any, have left the cash transfer, whatever, are they any better off, or they are still just how you met them?
Or maybe they've gone on to have more children, thereby increasing the burden that they currently are going through.
Oh, well, let's open up the phone line, shall we?
Yes, let's do that. 0700 951 0000 08095974869. You can also call us on WhatsApp, regular phone call, voice call 08099930137. Welcome to you.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you very much. This is Ola from Lube calling.
Go ahead.
You see, with regards to this issue about subsidy and the so-called palliatives from the World Bank, you see, this particular topic was discussed, at length when what's it called, what was anchoring the school. I'm sorry, it's still. And I tried to call it at that point in time. Unfortunately, I ran out of credit. You see, I just made a little research now. I asked a question about how much is even needed to build a sustainable refinery. And, my research tells me that for us to build 100,000 barrels per day refinery, we need roughly $1.5 billion. And I made further inquiry, and I was told that, look, for us to build a new 24,000 barrels per day refinery, we need $450 million. $250 million to build 24,000 barrels per day refinery. So from this $800 million we're getting from World Bank, it means we can build 24,000 barrels per day mini refineries conveniently and still have some change, right? Do you understand? So why are we talking about palliative at this point in time? Why not deploy this money? Why not use this money? So if we're not even talking about building new refineries, let's even revamp the existing ones. Let's ensure that those existing refineries work at optimum capacity. That's what we're talking about now. Now, in that same conversation during somebody was talking about the fluctuation in the price of crude oil in the international market, contributing to why you're paying a lot of subsidy. I was just laughing. The simple question is, if our refineries are working, in fact, we should be benefiting from the increase in the crude oil price in the international market, because we should be exporting, not even importing, if our refineries are working. So that should not be an excuse. So in a nutshell, we should not be transferring the inefficiency of government to Nigerians. That burden should not be transferred to Nigerians. So as it is now, hello, am I with you?
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Yeah, as it is. Honestly, I don't think any Nigerian should entertain the issue of the issue of the different subsidy at this point in time.
All right.
So refineries are working and no ones are doing anything other than that. They should forget about those palliatives, because we know that the ones that have told us about in the time past have amounted to nothing. We cannot see the impact on
All right, Ola. Thank you.
We just want to connect to deceive ourselves. So let's make no officials come and tell us that they're going to use the
All right, Ola.
palliative to pay for Islam.
Thank you very much, Ola. And I know that some northern youth are saying they were going to resist any attempt to remove subsidy. We've also heard, some arm of the Nigerian Labour Congress say it's going to throw Nigeria, set the country on fire
if it were removed,
looking at
yes.
the headline if it was removed. So already you get the fact from some quarters that we will not just allow you to remove subsidy if you do not make certain provisions. And I think that's why the government is also being proactive to telling you the funds they are getting and where they're channeling it to help the poor and the vulnerable who are going to be affected by the upsurge in price of transportation, food, and petrol.
But we know the removal of subsidy would only take us, steps backwards. And this palliative would just, be for a temporary period. And if the refineries are not fixed, or if you don't have systems that are working, it's the same vicious cycle over and over again. How often would we get the palliatives? but those who really need it, how often would they get these palliatives if we don't have our refineries working? And the NLC would not take this sitting gently. They would want to ensure that, Nigerians who cannot afford these increase, because once the fuel increases, it's across board. Everything else,
most definitely.
Everything else goes with it. So it's important that the government looks for a more proactive way to handle and mitigate the effects of the fuel subsidy once it gets removed. Yes.
Well, I don't envy the government nonetheless, because some things... Okay, well, let's go on a very quick break and we'll build on this after the break. Stay with us.
Hello, my name is Kimberly. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring you the biggest stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria Info Hard Fact Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
This is Nigeria